Chapter 2, Mesopotamia and the Fertile Crescent. Section 2, the First Civilizations. As villages became more complex, city leaders had to start organizing workers to solve problems such as building and cleaning irrigation canals. Now, as a result of this, society and culture, of course, grew more complex, and these changes became an advanced form of culture that developed in cities called a civilization. The first civilization rose about 3300 BC in a place called Sumer, a region in Mesopotamia. Now, here is Sumer in this green area. All of this is Mesopotamia, but this little area right here is called Sumer. So that's part of the area that we're calling Mesopotamia. Now, within Sumer, you will see the development of these smaller city-like areas called a city-state. A city-state is a city that is almost a separate, independent state with nearby villages and farmland. Now, let's explain this a little bit further. Sumer is not a country. It's called a civilization, but it's not a country. So each of these little city-states that you see on the map here, Kish, Uruk, Lagash, those are all independent cities developing in the civilization of Sumer. All of them, if you look, were either located right on the rivers or by the rivers, and a lot of them, in Sumer especially, were located by the mouth of the river. Now, when you have a mouth of a river, that's kind of where everything empties out into a larger body. You can kind of think of the rivers as kind of like an internal system coming from your stomach to your mouth. Let's say you ate something really rotten and you had to vomit. The rivers are kind of like that. It's like dumping out the water right into the larger body of water. Let's take a look at what a Sumerian city might look like. This is one of the largest and most important structures you would find in a city-state in Sumer. It's called a ziggurat. A ziggurat is a temple where religious, social, and economic activities took place. You can see the ziggurat itself kind of has these terraces, like these little flat areas around the building. It's kind of designed so it looks like staircase so that the gods in the heavens can come down and descend to earth using this staircase, if you will. This is a model of a ziggurat, but over here on the right is an actual ziggurat that is still standing from the ancient Mesopotamian times. You would find that in the country of Iraq today. The most powerful person in Mesopotamian society were priests. And we can't get the priests confused with like the priests that we're used to hearing about today, like Father Jim or Father Tino. It's not the same. But the priests were not only religious leaders, but they were political leaders as well. Now, Sumerians believed in something called polytheism. Polytheism is the belief in many gods and goddesses. You just have to look at the word part here, poly. Poly means many. If you think in math terms, like a polygon is an object with many sides. So the poly part means many, and the theism is just the religious part of that word. So the Sumerians believe in all sorts of gods and goddesses. It can range from anything like the gods of the sea or gods of the trees, but there are lots of different gods and goddesses in their religion. They believed the gods, if they were pleased, protected people from troubles and dangers. But if the gods aren't pleased, then terrible things would happen. For example, when floodwaters hit, the people believed that they must have done something wrong. So the gods are angry, and so they brought the floodwaters. That's kind of what their religious beliefs were like. A new type of ruler is going to appear during this time period, and it is a king. The king was the highest ranking leader of a group of people. The civilization needed a king to help protect the city-states from attack. And like we've mentioned before, Sumer is the very first kingdom that ever, has happened. So again, here's the map. This is all Sumer, part of Mesopotamia, and these are all city-states that are within Sumer. These are all independent places. I just love this king. This guy always creeped me out. That Burger King. Ugh. Remember, with a complex village, one of the aspects of that is having social classes. And Sumerian society is no different. It has social classes. So if you kind of design the social class system into a pyramid, at the top of the pyramid you will see kings and priests. And the reason why they're at the top of the pyramid is not very big. And so that just indicates there's not a lot of kings or priests in society. So, but they're at the top because they're the most powerful. In the middle, you have the farmers, artisans, and merchants. They're like the second biggest group of people in Sumer. Then at the bottom of the pyramid, the bottom of the barrel, if you will, the dirt, you have slaves. And of course, that's the largest group of people in society because it's at the bottom of the pyramid. That's the social class system. All the social classes included women, so their social status varied widely. For example, the main role of women was raising the children. As you can see in my wonderful picture here of the mommy cutting the hair of the little kitty. Some women could be a priestess, or a merchant, or artisan, or they can even own land. Now, this is unusual in ancient societies because women didn't have a high standing in a lot of cultures. But this particular one, they can do a lot of different things. Some early Sumerian scientific developments. The early inventions included the plow, which you see here in this picture, and the wheel. The plow, you attach your animal to this, and it just digs a little ditch into the soil. Here's the early wheel found in Sumer. And he also developed a number system based on the number 60. And this number system was used to keep records of crops and goods that were traded. One other thing that was invented was a written language. Symbols or pictures were created called pictographs to mark containers or to keep records. Eventually, sounds will be associated with these symbols. And when you combine the sounds and the symbols, you have this wedge-shaped writing that was invented called cuneiform. So this is the first written language that we know of. And if you look at the clay tablet here, you can see all these little wedge shapes. They are forming pictures, which, with a sound, would be the first, like the early languages that were invented. And you had one person or a couple people within the village who would be able to write and understand the cuneiform, and those people were called scribes. And they did everything on these clay tablets. So you would find, it is like the early version of our books, but it was clay tablets, and then they hardened, and those cuneiform symbols would all be kind of preserved, if you will, and they would be able to store them. That is the end of section 2.